We all enjoy having money. Whoever said that money could not buy happiness was wrong 95% of the time. Money certainly isn't everything in life, but it does play a big role. And some people are fortunate enough to be born into wealth, but we're not going to talk about them today. Besides, what story could possibly be better than one in which a person who had nothing growing up suddenly becomes a billionaire? We're Deluxe Living, and we're here to give you a taste of how the 1% live. Today, let's take a look at these awe-inspiring billionaires who went from rags to riches. Don't forget to like this video, press subscribe, and hit that notification bell so we can keep you up to date with everything deluxe and more. Jeff Bezos. The most well-known billionaire currently alive isn't precisely Jeff Bezos. He may be the fourth richest person in the world, but that doesn't mean his life has always been about buying private islands and loathing Elon Musk. Bezos' parents weren't prepared for a child. When he was born, they were 17 and 19 years old, and his mother was actually forced to bring her infant along to night school classes. He worked hard at manual labor on his grandparents' ranch for most of his childhood. He even worked at McDonald's in high school during the breakfast shift. He was able to graduate from high school as valedictorian when he expressed his desire that one day mankind might inhabit space. After graduating from college, Bezos realized how quickly the internet craze was expanding. He made the decision to launch Amazon.com, which would grow to be the largest company in the world. Despite Amazon's success, Bezos maintained his high school dream of sending people into space. He founded Blue Origin and afterwards went on to become a commercial astronaut. He undoubtedly gave himself a high five while in orbit. Bezos' enormous clock, the Clock of the Long Now, which ticks only once a year and will run for 10,000 years, is by far the oddest item anyone in the world has ever purchased. That's a good idea, I suppose. It most certainly isn't worth $42 million. That is more than half of the $78 million he spent on his island. However, Bezos never truly lost sight of his roots. He eventually purchased the ranch owned by his grandfather, where he had spent a lot of time in his childhood days. Steve Jobs. Everyone in the technology industry seems to be striving to live up to Steve Jobs' legacy, who was one of the guys responsible for creating Apple. That shouldn't come as a surprise given how his unique stage presence and his groovy dead style made computers seem cool. Jobs was not as fortunate as Elon Musk, who was born into a wealthy family in South Africa before founding Tesla Motors. He was actually given up for adoption by his biological parents. Paul Jobs, a mechanic, and Clara Jobs, an accountant, took him in, and their adopted son decided to drop out of college and pursue entrepreneurship. While you may assume that Steve Jobs' whole career was marked by the kinds of success Apple enjoys now, the corporation really went through a series of failures before firing Steve Jobs. But when he returned, he elevated the business to the renown it has today. All three of these devices, the iMac, iPod, and iPhone, revolutionized technology. Even though all of that is fantastic, Pixar is still my favorite of his accomplishments. Every great billionaire has a passion for something that they spend a lot of money on, and for Jobs, it was undoubtedly cars. He has a large, unusual car collection. He favored European luxury or bizarre oddities the most, though. This includes a BMW Z8 that costs more than $120,000, a Fiat 650 Coupe that costs more than $30,000, and a Nash Metropolitan convertible that costs just under $20,000. And finally, there are his Porsches, which are undoubtedly his favorites. A $100,000 Porsche 911, a $20,000 Porsche 944, and a $37,000 Porsche 928. He was valued at $10.2 billion at the end of his life. That differs greatly from being the adopted child of a mechanic. Although, as you could imagine, his dad was pleased to see such a garage. Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban is currently so wealthy that he is figuratively the most well-known wealthy individual on a show about wealthy individuals assisting other wealthy individuals. So how did that start? Mark Cuban, though, has the traditional American tale. His grandparents were actual Ellis Island immigrants from Russia. Although he was raised in a working-class household, he already showed entrepreneurial traits. His initial business was actually the resale of coins, stamps, and baseball cards. He eventually joined the team at broadcast.com, and helped it so successful that Yahoo bought it for $5.7 billion in stock. This was a terrible decision on Yahoo's part because the service they purchased was discontinued a few years later as a result of the dot-com bubble bursting. However, it was fantastic news for Cuban, who continued to make money by shorting his shares. He later made investments in a number of companies and even paid $285 million for the Dallas Mavericks basketball team. Along with having a traditional American origin story, Mark Cuban spends his money in all the typical ways one could anticipate an American billionaire too. Alright, let's see what he's got. But of course, remember to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe for more awesome videos like this one. Has he got a big house? Big yes. He spent $17.6 million on a 24,000 square foot house in Dallas. What about yachts or private planes? That's a double yes. Although neither of his 2 private aircraft nor his yacht are what he views as his best travel purchases. During a promotion, Cuban spent $250,000 for an unlimited American Airlines ticket. He has referred to it as his best investment ever. Cuban is a shark among sharks today with a net worth of $4.6 billion. Tyler Perry. Tyler Perry's life was far from successful when it first began, despite the fact that he is now a huge success. He was born in New Orleans to a low-income household. Tyler's father was so violent that he actually changed his name to Perry to separate himself from him. He started creating plays after seeing an Oprah Winfrey Show interview demonstrating the therapeutic benefits of writing. Then he relocated to Atlanta, where he started working and gradually developed his profession. When he developed his media character, things really took off. This addition of humor to the serious topics he tackled in his stories really resonated with the audience. It resulted in a number of successful films, which let Perry launch his own production company and rise to the status of a true business titan. This business is also not a small one. Atlanta has now become well known because of it. The hugely successful MCU blockbuster Black Panther was the first production to shoot at Perry's studio. What a fantastic movie to start with, right? He even paid $9 million for a 34,000 square foot home in Atlanta in 2007. Perry's current net worth of slightly over $1 billion would have amazed him in his younger years when he was a struggling theatrical actor. Even though all of that is great, Perry's decision to remain open about his difficult beginnings is possibly the best thing he has ever done. He sets a good example for individuals who find themselves in similar circumstances, or at the very least, he acts as a spokesperson for those who are willing to discuss topics that are taboo for most people. Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey is arguably one of the most adored billionaires alive today. Oprah was born into a modest, impoverished family in a rural area of Mississippi. From those humble beginnings, she received a scholarship to Tennessee State University, where at the age of 19, she started working as a news correspondent. Later, she relocated to Chicago and launched her own talk show there, The Oprah Winfrey Show. It lasted for 25 years and inspired her to launch her own magazine. She was known as the Queen of Media and was the wealthiest African American of the 20th century. She also started spending like a queen. Her numerous real estate purchases over the years have included a $100,000 3-bedroom apartment at the Four Seasons Chicago, a $6.5 million home on an artificial island outside of Miami, numerous extremely expensive Hawaiian properties, and a $6.85 million home she bought from Jeff Bridges in Montecito. So precisely how wealthy is Oprah? Well, her most current estimated net worth is roughly $2.5 billion. If this video inspired you in any way, why don't you press the subscribe button so you don't miss out on more worthwhile videos like this one? Don't forget to give us a thumbs up.